year, some would say.
Oh, shut up.
It is the hit players, and the honorary hit player, Sarah, is back,
Hello.
making her second, I think, your second appearance.
Third.
It's like my third.
She was on the Scooby-Doo.
Scooby Doo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. We didn't have you mic'd up though, unfortunately.
There's another one.
Yeah,
Oh, the
welcome back.
Conjuring. Conjuring one too.
Were you on Conjuring?
I was like in the corner.
I don't remember.
Also not mic'd up.
It was there in spirit.
Subscribe to our Patreon so we can buy a new mic.
Spirit.
Oh.
Ooh.
We all just watched the fourth movie of an illustrious young director. I say young in quotation marks. Robert Eggers, a director that I have learned to appreciate, and I think you as well, having seen
Many of
his
his
movies,
films,
or
yes.
one of his. But have you seen any of his stuff before? We went to
No.
go watch it.
No.
Did you have any idea what this movie was going to be about?
A vampire that's about. Even then it was very. Even then it was very. No, I had no idea.
No idea.
None.
How about yourself, James?
I avoided all trailers.
Yeah.
I read no reviews. I saw no scores. I didn't even know the cast, except for Bill Skarsgård. I thought Anya Taylor-Joy was going to be in it. Turns out it's Aaron Taylor-Johnson. So I was wrong about that, too.
You got the wrong ATJ.
I got the wrong ATJ. So no, I don't even know the original Nosferatu story either. I know Dracula, but I knew it from middle school, so that that's a little. And the movie Helsing. But other than that, no, I had no expectations.
Bram Stoker's Dracula, either the book or the movie.
Hadn't even seen that.
Yeah.
Nope. What about yourself?
I knew about it because I had remember we finished watching The Northman, and like within a week, this was announced, and I was like, I'm there day one. I like a lot of Eggers stuff, which we'll break down eventually at some point within the next couple minutes. But I was really excited. I saw the cast. I saw specifically Nicholas Hoult, who I appreciate. I think he's a really good, fun, like, just put him in a weird setting, and he can do some funny stuff. And yeah, just something about vampires and werewolves. I think that like mythology is just
Scratches an itch for you.
Something about it is fun for me in terms of movies. I on record for this podcast saying that I love the Twilight movies.
That's correct. Yes.
Even stuff like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I'm like, yeah, that's fun. I love watching those kind of movies.
Yeah.
Will not watch the Underworld movies. That's where I draw the line.
That's where you draw the line.
But those kind of movies, I mean, those kind of movies are fun. So this was like right in my wheelhouse of like, it's a trichotomy of things that I enjoyed, or I was looking forward to in a movie. And I don't want to say I had high hopes going into this one, but
You were excited.
there
to
were
see
some
it.
expectations to be. I was definitely excited. I think this was one that I mentioned in the like what I was looking forward to in 2025. And I mean, yeah, it was a movie. I loved it.
Oh, okay. When you start with it was a movie, I immediately was like, "Is this going to be?"
No, I mean to kind of just bury the lead a little bit. I mean, I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. There were definitely some moments, and I think you and I kind of looked at each other in the theater like, "What the F is going on?" But for me, I think that's one of the things that, like, you mentioned your dad had never seen a movie from him. Like, if you don't go into it not knowing what kind of filmmaker he is, it'll throw you. I mean, I remember reading reviews about The Northman where people were like, and then he just starts floating, and you're like, "Yeah, that's Robert Eggers. That's what he does." Like, he just
One
does
of my
weird
friends,
things.
before I saw it, one of my friends had texted me, and he was like, "If you're going to see it, don't see it with your family." And I'm like, in line at the theater with my dad and my sister, and he's like, "There's a lot of nudity." And I'm like, "Have you never seen a Robert Eggers movie before either?"
Yeah.
That's a shtick. That kind of like psychosexual, drama.
Turns out
He
people
loves
still
this
don't
stuff.
read the parental guidance
on IMDb.
on the IMDb. 9 out of 10 nudity.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for that stuff. Thoughts? I mean, you had no expectations going into this, just like myself.
I had none. No.
I kind of dragged you along.
A little bit. I was like,
Yeah.
are we gonna go see this movie this weekend, or like, what are we doing?
Definitely is a date movie. I can't blame you guys for that.
I don't know. I liked it at first. I was getting really into it, and then I think like midway through, I was like, okay, when are we gonna like fight, guys? Like, when are we gonna?
So
start
you went
doing
into
things?
it thinking it was gonna be like full on Twilight, like
No, I don't
they're
want
gonna
to say
fight
it
each
was full on
other.
Twilight, but I was like I started like anticipating like a fight scene almost, and I don't know if it's just like the movies I've watched previously where they start like just third act is just very like, okay, now we're just gonna go like into it. We're gonna just have a fight scene. So I was anticipating like this big third act fight between everybody, and I never got that. So I think that's why I kind of.
You've been watching a lot of Buffy. That's probably why too.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Had a
You
cool
went
with
in
the
with like a
Marvel movies.
preconceived notion of the genre. You were like,
Yeah.
I need this.
I was like, and I was like, actually, I'm now sitting with it a little bit longer. I'm definitely have like appreciation for it. I think
it's important to distinguish that Robert Eggers isn't a horror filmmaker.
Right.
Although his films are often classified that way. I do think gothic is the perfect word to describe his style. Because it's just pure vibes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really horrifying, although there are often like horrifying imagery.
Or like
but he
jump scares
relies
here
a
and there.
lot more on folklore than he does like ghosts or the paranormal or supernatural, you know. And those elements are 100% present in Nosferatu all the way throughout. I can't lie, I was also a little underwhelmed by this film.
Yeah.
All the way through. I wouldn't say my appreciation has grown as time has gone on, though.
You watched it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so I've had time to digest it. I was bored.
Yeah.
That would be my biggest criticism of this movie. It's really long.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, for a 2-hour movie, I was like, we could probably cut out 10 minutes.
I feel like
Yeah.
you could cut out a lot more than 10 minutes, personally. Not to say that you could cut out like an entire hour. I just feel like if this is faithful to the original Nosferatu, he should have done some rewriting.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying. I agree that the plot definitely
Yeah.
feels like it's going somewhere at first and then just hits the brakes.
Yeah.
For like an hour and a half after that.
Yeah.
That would be, in a nutshell, the thing that I say you should know going into it, more so than the nudity. Just know that it's a long movie and it's going to feel long.
Yeah.
And it's not exactly paced for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, I think, is almost how long it is.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's the pacing issue of characters are taking too long to go somewhere or like like do something or anything like that. Where it's like, okay, it shouldn't take you 5 seconds to pick up an envelope. Like I get there's a sense of tension that we need to build up to, but like when every character does it in every scene, it's like where's your script supervisor? Which I think is something that we mentioned about with the Northman too. Is like the pacing does feel a little off where you're like it's go 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 and then it's a long stretch of just like slow until the final, the finale.
The thing with the Northmen, and this is, I don't mean this as like a spoiler territory already for Nosferatu, but with the Northmen, even though it was a very slow moving movie in terms of the pace of the story, there were still pockets of scenes where you got like tension, to the max, right?
Yeah.
Like I still remember Nicole Kidman's scene, which is like 2 hours into the film, and you get that, and you're just like, is this the climax? No, there's still more.
Nicole Kidman's only good scene in that whole movie.
Her only scene in the entire movie, basically. But like, there's still pockets of that throughout the course of the Northman that still keep the story and the characters moving along. I didn't get that with Nosferatu, in my opinion.
I think there's still pockets of scenes.
For me, every single scene, I was like, I feel like you could have gotten more out of that. And I don't know if that's just because every character takes 5 minutes to do any movement, or if it's just the performances and like the kind of stilted accents and dialogue.
Yeah.
Or,
You didn't appreciate like the 17 different accents that were going on in 1839
in Germany. Yeah. No, at first I was like, oh, great. Everyone's German and they all have British accents.
Yeah.
I like that. And then one guy showed up with a authentic, like Scottish, like Highlands accent.
Yeah.
And I was like, just have him speak English. just normal American English. I told you guys we went to see this with my sister's Korean boyfriend, whose English is very, very good. He did not understand a goddamn word that anybody said in this entire film. He probably couldn't even read the subtitles because of the freaking script that they were written in. And I was just like, yeah, this probably wasn't a good choice to take you along to see this film.
This is the kind of movies they do. They see over Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with these people?
Yeah, seriously. Don't even get me started on the fact that the family is named Harding.
It is?
Yeah.
I didn't even pick that up.
Oh, I picked up on that right away.
They all start pointing at each other.
My dad was like, hold up, there's a dad, a mom, 2 sisters, and they have a boy on the way?
That's funny.
He was like...
He's like, is this movie about me?
Yeah. I didn't care that their last name was Harding. I just thought it was funny.
That's funny. I didn't even notice. I don't even know any of the characters' names, except for Orlok.
Yeah, that's the only character's name. Oh, well, obviously Frederick Harding. I remember his name.
Oh, Frederick, yeah.
I know the actors. Again, I didn't know who was going to be in this film.
Lily Rose Depp's character, I have no idea what her character.
Helen?
Ellen.
I heard 3 different names for her. I'm not even going to lie.
Yeah, the accents were really, really not a good choice, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's 2025, my guy.
Just hire German actors.
Literally, at a certain point, I was like, just either use German accents or just speak German.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be like, old, like, or at that point it would probably be middle German, but like it can still be like, just there's better ways to make it more authentic and still make it legible to an audience, in my opinion. That's just me anyway. Also, like, because accent training has come so much further than it has back in like the actual 1920s when movies like Nosferatu were being made, that people can better replicate that accent more authentically, which makes it less intelligible to us. The fact that they would have to have subtitles throughout it. And it's like, I know you're speaking English, but like I could not understand what Bill Skarsgård was saying without the subtitles. He was incomprehensible.
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely some where I was like, or the heavy breathing, I think, kind of threw me for a loop sometimes, where I was like, I get what they're doing again, but like every scene, we don't need this.
Yeah, seriously. You don't have to take a breath between every word.
So you're telling me that the scene, we'll get into a little bit of spoilers here. The scene where Nicholas Hoult first gets to the castle did nothing for you?
When he first arrives at the castle,
when he's walking through the forest,
I was
and
like,
the carriage pulls up.
I was like, we're gonna get this kind of movie.
That was one of my favorite scenes. That probably is my favorite scene.
Same. Yeah,
he floats into the carriage, and I'm like,
I thought
we're going there.
Yeah, dude. Even just the lighting with the trees in the background, the snow falling down that little path. I was like, this is German expressionism. This is what we should be looking at for the rest of this film. We don't.
Instead, we get backlit.
Yeah, we get studio
by fire
sets
and moons.
Disappointing, in my opinion. Honestly, it was kind of disappointing because the first maybe like 20 minutes of this film, I'm like, I'm with you, right? I was getting engaged with it.
What are we watching?
Yeah, and then at a certain point, it really feels like it just stops.
Yeah,
and like the story kind of stands still for a good portion of this film. The plot of this film is basically like Count Orlok has a hot date and he just takes his time getting there. He just has all the time in the world.
Well, he has to be invited.
There. He has to be invited. That's right.
He has to be invited to the country. That's why he gets this deal signed.
Yeah. And then they just take their time getting there. It's so
He's
annoying.
like, I got movers. I'll get there when I get there.
I gotta travel by boat.
Yeah, I start next week. I'm not really worried about it.
It's funny in hindsight because you're like, oh, it's a 6-week journey from Germany to where he lives in the Carpathian Mountains. But getting there is like a montage of just Nicholas Hoult on a horse.
Yeah.
Getting back.
Start playing like
takes the next 2 hours.
It's going to be like Shrek. I'm on my way.
Yeah.
Where's that little montage at?
Yeah. Anyway, that would
It wasn't even a montage. It was like he's on a horse. He goes through a horse. Okay, now he's in the snowy mountains.
Yeah.
And now he's at the village.
He went through one green field and then he arrived at the mountains. And that was it. That's Europe right
I
there.
love that. I love that like hand waving of like, he got there.
Yeah, he got there. It takes longer by boat, obviously, than horseback.
Yeah.
Anyway, just that would be my review in a nutshell.
How'd you feel about the performances?
Mixed bag, in my opinion. It felt more scene by scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Than it did just overall. Like, Nicholas Hoult, he's a great character actor, right? He's the kind of guy who I feel like could do Count Orlok, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, I think he's done like vampires and zombies.
Yeah.
He did Warm Bodies. He was in one of like, the first
Yeah.
movies I ever saw him
So
in.
he's used to being the monster.
Yeah. I remember him from Mad Max Fury
Beast.
Road.
Yeah, Mad Max. That's another good one.
So, like, maybe it was just the fact that the character he plays doesn't have that level of, I don't want to say extravagance, but like, it didn't feel like a character for him to inhabit, in a way. He came across probably the most stilted out of everybody, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that. There's scenes where I'm like, this is good. Like,
yeah.
Every time he's scared, like the first scene when he's upside down in the chair, and spoiler.
Spoiler, he sits down at a
He
certain
sits down in
point.
the chair. But like that whole scene, you're like, yeah, he feels like I watching him, I was like, yeah, he's terrified. Like I feel like Robert Eggers was behind the camera
With a gun.
like, pointing a gun at him, like you better fucking be scared right now.
Like I said, it's scene by scene. I feel like yes, that first part where we're just following him and he's meeting Count Orlok for the first time. Those scenes, I think he's fantastic in. The issue is that there's 2 hours left in the film after that, and I just didn't feel as impressed with his emotions. Another kind of spoilery scene is when he's confronting Lily Rose Depp's character, and they're in their apartment, and this is after like
The first night.
I think so, yeah. No, it's when they have sex, if you remember that scene. Yeah.
Yes.
And
That's one of the scenes where we looked at each other like, what's going on?
yeah. He just felt like, literally, I think that there was a moment where the camera cut to him and I was like, oh yeah, he's here. Like complete wallpaper in that scene, in my opinion, until he starts undressing. But like, no, definitely there were scenes in the beginning where I was like, I feel like he does a good job. His character just completely peters out, in my opinion, kind of for the rest of the film.
It becomes her story definitely by the end.
Yeah. And I did think that Lily Rose Depp did a good job.
Yeah.
Right? I was like...
A lot of crying. Poor girl must have been drinking so much electrolytes to be losing that much fluid.
Yeah, no.
A lot of crying
Seriously.
in this movie for her.
I think she did a good job.
Yeah.
Personally.
She probably strained her vocal cords at least 3 times.
Good redemption from The Idol.
Yeah.
That's exactly what she told me on the car ride home.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I was like, okay. Because I was like, I knew her from somewhere. And then I like saw her name on a poster walking out. I was like, oh, she was in The Idol. That's why I know
Those
her.
Kevin Smith movies.
Oh, yeah.
The like crappy ones the last 6 years.
Anyway, yeah, that's how I felt more or less. Oh, Bill Skarsgård. I think he did a great job.
Yeah.
I think he did really good. I didn't even know who that was.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Could have been animatronic. Could have been CGI.
It could have been anybody.
Could have been anybody.
Could have
Yeah.
been an actual German person.
Ron
I was
Perlman.
getting big, like Dr. Eggman vibes from the bald head and the big mustache.
Oh, just from his look.
yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I thought you were going to say Jim Carrey.
No.
And I was like, what? No, I think, yeah, for the most part.
The voice is really unsettling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, because I know that he took actual vocal lessons to learn to speak
Probably.
that way. So I have no idea how much of it is like, after like post-production effects on his voice and how much is just his ability to actually speak that low. Nevertheless.
Some would say the GOAT
You have two.
movie.
Again, I think it's more or less it tells you what kind of movie you're getting into, where you have 2 amazing character actors in this film, and then one of them does a good job.
Yeah.
In my opinion. My apologies. I didn't mean to be inflammatory there. But
What about the cameo from Defoe, like halfway through? Not even halfway through, like 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that and his character. I'll get into that in spoiler territory, personally. That's all I'm going to say.
Anything else you want to add?
I think it was a good like return to like vampire mythos and like bringing back like the old school vampire versus like the ones that they've kind of built up nowadays.
The sexy ones that glow in
that like
light.
shimmer.
Yeah.
The skin of a killer type. I really like that they brought back like the whole like mind control aspect of them, but like not how it was like in Twilight, but more so like the hey, like I'm like all the way over here, but I'm gonna tell you how to do this from like
I appear in your dreams.
Yeah. Like it felt more ominous for like a vampire that I've seen in years, I think.
It's like an 80s horror movie type of villain.
Yeah.
In that degree. Like Freddy Krueger. I appreciate that Robert Eggers is willing to lean into the mythology and like the way that he does with all of his movies, where he's like, it doesn't become too campy and whimsical, but it still is like different, right? Like you still feel like this is a supernatural being. It's not.
There's something about his style of storytelling where there's something about his style of storytelling where the actual like whether it's the order of events in the story or the kind of characters or the story arcs, they don't feel modern.
Yeah.
He is definitely like a modern filmmaker. His love of symmetry, you know?
Yes. He's been watching too many
Wes Anderson movies. Yeah. But, you know, I mean, Nosferatu being, you know, a version of Dracula from the 1920s, or Northman being, you know, the Danish version of Hamlet, not the Shakespearean version. Yeah. Like, he loves those kind of stories that rely more on, like, folklore and mythology. And I appreciate that the actual stories themselves are not modern stories. I just feel like he kind of missed the mark a little bit in this one, in my opinion.
Yeah. What should he tackle next? Bigfoot?
Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan and the ox. What's the ox name?
I don't know.
Babe? Is it Babe?
I thought it was Babe.
Is it Babe? Might be right.
Sure. Maybe. It's Blue.
Yeti?
You're right about that.
Do the Yeti.
He remakes Chill Out Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun.
Where would you rank this?
I'd give it an A. Yeah. I would rewatch this. I don't know if I'd recommend it to anybody.
Fair. Fair. Definitely not, I think, the first Robert Eggers movie you should see.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Would you give this a ranking?
I'd give it like a B. I probably wouldn't watch it again.
Would you watch a Robert Eggers movie?
Would I?
Either like a future one or a previously released one?
I think I like the movie overall. I just don't see myself seeing that particular one ever again.
Did anything about like the use of symmetry, for example, bother you, or like?
No, I think it was. I think like you said, like he just missed the mark on it a little bit. Like I think once I was gonna say spoiler. Actually, I'll wait till the spoilers for what I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna give this a C, but I think that might be a little too harsh, given that it's been a week since I've seen it. But I mean, yeah, I'll stick with that.
It's all subjective.
A C. For the most part. Just to say that, like, I had enjoyed previous films of his, but I had no expectations going into this one, and I was disappointed by it. I just feel like there's too much left on the table for me. It's really just how I really can't get into detail without spoiling it, so I'm not going to do that.
I can tell you're holding back.
Much like this movie, I am holding back.
All right, we're going to go spoilers now.
Snipe kills Dumbledore.
If you haven't watched it, come back. Okay, we're back. Spoilers. Full spoilers. So, is the plague an allegory for the COVID-19? You know, there's Dracula who's actually killing people. COVID-19 was actually killing people. And then the plague was fake for, like, the 5G and the chemtrails, the 5G towers.
Perhaps. That is one interpretation.
Is it not more like a religious thing?
No, it is. I'm just messing around.
I was like, what?
Because the whole time I'm thinking like, because I was thinking like the Aaron Taylor Johnson character was like, there's no demon. This is what's killing us. And I was like, I've heard this before.
I had the same thought too. But I was like, this is probably the original. I just didn't watch it. Because I'm sure there were people who denied the plague back in the plague. Yeah. Whatever.
I just thought it was funny. I don't know why my brain went to that, but that's the first thing that my brain clicked to.
I liked that it was rats instead of bats, because you think vampires, you think bats. Yeah. But I was like, yeah, rats. That makes sense for the time period. Mm-hmm. More realistic. What were you going to say that was a spoiler, though?
Oh, I think the part that I didn't like, where I stopped kind of like locking in on the movie, was when he jumped out of the the castle.
Oh,
And I
when he
was
went
like,
down.
yeah, that's when I was like, okay, I've everything about this movie kind of.
What made you forget? Because he actually survived.
I think just because of how choppy it already was for me. Like we start off with Lily Rose Depp, and so I'm like, okay, we're following this character,
Right.
and then we jump over to Nick Holt's character, and I'm like, okay, now we're following him, and then he jumps out, and I'm like, okay, he's gone, we lost him, so we're gonna go on back to Lily Depp, and then it kind of like his journey kind of like slows the movie down. I think for me.
Like his actual journey back.
Yeah, that's when it starts slowing down for me.
I can see that. There was definitely the witch coven thing where I was like, we could have just said like, oh, I got healed. We didn't need a whole like 5-minute thing of them chanting ancient Latin rites at him. Like, just, he found a blue potion. He drank the blue potion on the way back. That's fine. We're good. I don't need that. In terms of pacing.
Yeah.
I get it.
I think for me, the point where I felt like the movie really, really slowed down was when he does return.
When he falls off the horse.
Yeah. Because, I've said this before that I don't like when characters turn around.
Yeah.
And obviously it's necessary for the plot because he has to stop Orlok from getting back to Germany.
Yeah.
But that just the intercutting between their two stories, and then he returns, and then it's like, all right, we have to prepare for Orlok. Anybody have any ideas? Like, what are we supposed to do here?
And then it's a 30-minute.
Yeah, it's literally everybody just
finding
sitting
somebody
around.
to tell them what to do.
Yeah, and then William Dafoe shows up. Now, his character, I don't think was meant to be comedic. Probably, actually, no, he was probably intended to be comedic at first. The issue with his character is that he is nothing but a deus ex machina throughout every single scene he shows up in. He shows up, he knows the answer to everything, and if he doesn't, he finds it immediately. There is literally the complete spoiler for the movie, by the way. They are looking around the office of the real estate guy. They're like, there has to be a connection between him and Orlok that will tell us how to save Lily Rose Depp. And William Dafoe opens a book that says Count Orlok will have sex with her and they will both die. 15 minutes later, Count Orlok has sex with her and they both die. There is no tension whatsoever. The movie straight up says this is how it will end. No attempt to stop it. No dramatic irony in that, like, oh, he knows something that these other guys don't know. It's like, no, they show up to the cemetery and then he's like, oh yeah, by the way, you guys got to turn around again. Fooled you. I was like, that's probably not how storytelling is supposed to work, actually. My apologies.
Yeah, he likes characters turning around.
He really does.
He does that quite a bit.
Especially in this movie, which probably really bothered me. No, when William Dafoe showed up, I immediately was like, I'm already checked out at this point. This character is just going to show up in every scene and say, this explains this explains that. And, oh, by the way, I didn't have the answer the entire time. By the way, I knew the answer the entire time. Sorry, didn't mean to fool you there.
Yeah, I feel like if Orlok is coming back with Nicholas Hoult, this movie's probably a little bit better.
Okay, so my original watching this, I was like, because he leaves the church and the nuns are like, you're still cursed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have to stay with us. And I was like, he's going to show up and Count Orlok is going to be like attached to him.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen.
Insidious style.
Yeah.
It's not the house.
And I was like, what? He takes a boat? That's just law of conservation of detail. Don't bring it up.
Not only did he take a boat, he put himself in a crate.
Yeah.
How does that even work? He has no, aid at that point. Because his aid is locked up.
What can you do, man?
Yeah.
How did that work? He just had Jeff Bezos on the phone like, hey, I'm sending a package. I need you guys to go pick me up.
Yeah, pretty much.
I got a UPS shipment I got to send.
Yeah.
Go pick me up.
I like the use of shadows for him.
Yeah.
The way that he can travel using shadows. I thought that was super cool. But I feel like it was still underutilized to a certain extent. And there was a lot of use of mirrors. Because obviously, vampires, they can't appear in mirrors.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, characters would be framed with a mirror where you can see them reflected in it. And I kept waiting. Someone's going to walk by a mirror and not appear in it.
Oh, like a fake vampire.
Yeah.
Or like a hiding vampire.
Yeah. Never happened.
Never happened.
And
Maybe
I was
that was
like,
him just trying to fool you.
that's such terrible red herring, though. Because you can use shadows. You just get rid of the mirrors.
Yeah.
You know? But if you're going to have the mirrors there, at least have them serve some, if not a thematic
I think he did it just because
purpose.
it looks cool.
It certainly did, but like at the end of the day, I'm still just like, again,
it's the rule of cool.
You left something out on the table that you could have, Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's mirror.
I think with the mirrors, you're thinking a little too deep with it. I think most people recognize purely that just aesthetic purposes of like, I just want this reflection in the shot. 100%. I 100% do think that. No. I don't see him as a director who's like, I'm gonna meticulously frame it to where it has a meaning. Like everything in the frame has a meaning to a degree. I think a lot of the time it's just, this looks cool. This sets this kind of vibe. This sets an eerie vibe because mirrors are kind of freaky if you think about it. Yeah. You go to a mirror house and you're like, what the hell? Like, why is there 17 of me? You're like trying to make sure they're all looking back at you.
Yeah. I mean, I disagree, but I get why you think I'm overthinking it. I would say that I honestly wouldn't doubt if Robert Eggers is the kind of person who would meticulously plan that stuff out, which is why it feels weird that I can't pinpoint a narrative, like thematic reason why the mirrors are there when you have the shadows anyway. The shadows serve the same purpose, and they're visually much cooler, in my opinion. Anyway, that's the end of that. Honestly, I really feel like this movie had not enough story for its runtime, because by the time we realize he is now going to go to Germany and wreak whatever havoc he's going to do, bring the plague, sleep with Lily Rose Depp, whatever, you just sit there waiting for it to happen. And there is just no tension in it for me. Like, Count Orlok shows up and he's like, every night that you don't, give yourself over to me, I'm going to kill somebody you love.
Yeah.
The next night, the entire family dies. And I was sitting there like, I guess that's everybody she loves. Like, because he doesn't kill anybody else after that.
Yeah.
He kills a lot of townspeople, but that's about it. And I was like, again, you literally, you bring that up and then you just go halfway with it. I felt that about almost everything in this film.
I mean, those are the only people she knew in the town, though. She was a recluse.
She was
from the very beginning. She was a recluse. Yeah. She's literally praying to a god to bring her goodwill.
I just felt like you could have done something else with it. At the very least, put Nicholas Hoult in danger. The dogs. The dogs cats? Don't get brought up again. Yeah, the cats.
That'd be cool. Just the dogs running around town.
Yeah. I don't doubt that there was that dichotomy between he owns dogs and they all have cats. Mm-hmm. But like,
you want them to have like a war?
The cats didn't kill any of the rats? Really? That's what they're there for. Whatever.
Maybe the cats are took time off.
Yeah, the cats took time off, definitely, yeah. The screenwriter took time off is what I think.
It's just that's out of our.
Yeah. Anyway, I feel like I'm being harsher on this film than I really feel about it. Because I
don't know, you just went 10 minutes straight.
I know. Like, I had criticisms about it, but it was one of those, it's not so much that I am criticizing it because I thought it was a bad movie. I felt like it could have been better. And that's why I feel like I'm so disappointed by some of those decisions, because I'm like, every scene, I'm like, you could have gotten something just a little bit more out of that, in my opinion. Whether it was, the actual set design, since so much of this film just takes place in like the same 3 locations, or it could have been the actual performances, which I think were somewhat hampered by the accents anyway. So I'm not blaming the actors for that necessarily. Or it could have just been, some of the choices in Eggers' directing itself. Like, towards the beginning of the film, there's a lot of camera movements that feel motion tracked in a way where you can't tell what's CGI or not. And it gives that real, like, kind of unsettling, like, wandering eye feeling to it. Where, like, the camera moves ahead of the action. And I was like, that is super cool. And he only does it in, like, 2 scenes. And I was like, yeah, you had the right idea. You just probably didn't have the time to do it as often as you would have liked. In my opinion. Sorry, I'm talking too much.
Any other thoughts?
I don't think so. I don't know. Like yes and no. Like I feel like I'm just gonna reiterate everything I've been saying. Like it's a good movie. It kind of slows down in the middle. The acting, like you said, is kind of like hit or miss for me. I actually really liked Willem Dafoe in this movie.
Yeah.
And my favorite line was when they were talking about, he was like, no, he doesn't mean demons. He's like, no, yes, I do mean a demon is here.
Again, I think he's meant to be a kind of a comedic character.
Yeah.
You look tired, Schnaps.
Yeah. What do you think of the actual ending? Did it feel like a climax? Like there was resolution?
I think we talked about it. I was like, I don't think I like the ending. I think we talked about it on the way to the car. Where I was like, I just don't like how it ended. Like, kind of felt like it just, it's over. She died. Like,
She sacrificed herself.
But the build up to it as well.
Yeah, like I was expecting even them, like her to like, when they kissed, I was like, oh, she's gonna stab him. I was like waiting for
she
like,
just gives in.
Yeah, I was like, oh, no fighting at all. Like you're not even gonna try it. Like,
and the guys are all the way on the other side of town.
Yeah, so I'm like, I thought you wanted to be with this guy forever. Like you literally cried about it like 20 minutes ago. Like, what are we doing?
It just didn't feel like there was tension there, in my opinion.
I think towards the end, it just kind of ran out of steam. It's like, all right, we just have to finish the movie now.
Yeah. It felt like they were like, well, this is how the story ends, so I guess we'll just film it.
I ran out of ink on my printer.
Yeah. I mean, what did you think, Isaac?
Of the ending?
Yeah.
I liked it.
Was there sufficient enough tension in it?
Yeah, but not in like a good versus evil way. It's just like she was fulfilling her destiny in a way, quote unquote. And she became the savior of the world, even though, she was very like, I want to be with you, but I have to save the world. And it's like, it's basically like, when Cortana kills herself at the end of Halo 4, that kind of vibe. Spoiler alert for Halo 4. I didn't mind it. I thought, I think that final shot is a interesting final shot to end on. It's supposed to be like this beautiful, like Eastern European kind of like romantic image, and then it's a literal monster on top of her, and you're like, damn it, Robert.
He loves his macabre.
Yeah, it's like this is a little unsettling, but I see why you do it. You're an interesting guy. Directors would rather direct a new film than go to therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously.
I think he's definitely exhibit A of that stereotype.
I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, I feel like there was a good movie in this movie. And maybe I did have expectations. I because obviously I understand Robert Eggers' style from his previous films. Mm-hmm. I just feel like at this point, he can make movies for this extent, like these period dramas at this scale, right? Long movies with big set pieces, big budgets, big names in the cast, compared to like his, The Witch is like 4 actors and The Lighthouse is literally 2.
Yeah.
Like he's at this point now.
Yeah.
And I feel like for the thing for me to feel like was the most underwhelming were his contributions as the director, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, maybe go back to the smaller period piece, the smaller stuff, for the next one, perhaps. In my opinion, at least. That's just me. I don't know. You can't make a German expressionist film without the expressionism. That's just how I would describe it. Harsh, but I gave it a C.
Fair enough.
I think I did. The thing I liked the most about it was that it was very like a love letter to the original Dracula. Yeah. Like I really do like the occult, like the mythology of everything. So I think just the whole like, oh hey, like yes, he's immortal, but his body still ages because he's in a mortal body. Like that's why he looks the way he does. Like there's very much like that appreciation of previous works in the same genre, I think. So
I'm glad that Eggers incorporates a lot of that stuff into his
He does research.
stories.
Yeah.
He does research, yes. That's one thing you can say
People
about
aren't
him.
wearing suede jackets in 1883.
Yeah. Maybe in the next movie, just use normal American English, though.
Yeah, go back to America.
Yeah. Well, Paul Bunyan's Canadian, so you can get away with it.
Bigfoot's Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. Give us special thanks if you use one of those ideas.
Alien 51.
Yeah.
Or Area 51,
Area
sorry.
51.
Area
Ooh.
51. That'd be kind of an
good
interesting
one.
one.
That'd be a good one. Aliens?
He's got to do aliens, right? He did witches. He did, I guess, mermaids and sirens. He did Norse
mythology, yeah.
He's done now Eastern
vampires.
Eastern European.
Mm-hmm.
He's just
It's either
the
that or
Thanos.
werewolves.
He's the Thanos of like the occult. He's collecting all the.
I mean, yeah, I could see him that way. Just making movies that are like, yeah, I was reading the Grimm Brothers, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go with that.
He's like, yeah, the other director who he reminds me of is Darren Aronofsky, which is probably a really weird comparison, but in the same way that Aronofsky is obsessed with like the Torah, and every single movie of his is just filled with like biblical imagery. He's the exact same way, in my opinion, but just more about like Gnosticism, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I really have to say about Nosferatu.
What are we doing next week? Have we come up with the plan?
Yes, we did.
What was it? I don't remember.
You don't remember it?
Oh. Make sure everybody bring their superhero capes.
Yeah. Get in costume.
We're gonna get very elevated in the sky.
Wow, great.
You like that? You like that?
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah.
No, next week we'll have Claire back because she's out of town.
Unless you want Sarah to stay.
If you do, please donate $100 down below to my Venmo. We can buy her a mic. Just kidding, don't do that. Yeah, we're gonna do Sky High next week. That'll be fun to talk about. We spent one dinner literally talking about it for like 20 minutes, me, James, and Claire, and we're like, why is the mics not here right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we're gonna get together to do a Sky High pod because some would say the greatest superhero movie of the 20th century. 21st, sorry.
I think so. I love superhero movies.
I'm just saying some would say.
Yeah.
I am some.
You guys are some.
But we'll see you guys next week for that. So thank you. Make sure to hit the bell.
Subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, hitplay.pod.
Follow us on Spotify.
And
that's it, I think, right?
Did you see Nosferatu? What did you think of it?
Yeah. Was it better than the original? And I'm talking about the SpongeBob cameo.
I did like that Eggers was like, thank you, SpongeBob, for introducing people to Nosferatu.
Yeah. All right, we're out of here.